Hey, Fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. Today we got a very special treat for you. We got a returning guest to the show. He is top lightweight prospect, getting ready to fight in the Dana White Contender Series August 26th. He's taking on Marcio Barbosa. He is the Nomad. He is Mr. Damon Wilson.
Yes,
Damon,
sir.
what's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Carlo, for having me back on. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely, man. So very big fight coming up for you. Contender series, something we've talked about in the past. After your last victory, you wanted this. This is what you wanted. Well, you got it. When you got that phone call, was it pretty cool?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. It's funny. We were talking about this, and this was the opportunity I wanted, and I got it. A few days after that last win. And yeah, it was a bit of a surreal moment. I've been waiting on that phone call for a long time now, and I honestly I had a little bit of mixed emotions about it, just because a part of me is excited about part of my dream coming true, but also is the work's not done is the way I look at it. I still got a tough fight ahead of me, a tough training camp, and yeah, the work's not finished. I'm looking to get into the UFC for real.
Your last time out, obviously, Cage Warriors, you took out Leandro Camargo. Beautiful performance, man. Picked up an amazing victory there in the first round with those knees. Looking back at it now, months removed from the situation, what are your thoughts looking back?
Yeah, no, that was an interesting one because I took it on short notice. Traveling overseas, dealing with weight cut and stuff like that. Luckily, he needed a catch weight, so I was fine with that. So we fought a little heavier, but yeah, the performance is exactly what I needed. I knew that I needed to get one more finish, to get an opportunity to fight on Contender Series. And he was a game opponent. I knew that he was gonna want to grapple a little bit, so it plays right into what I like to do. I like to scroll and brawl. I like to, stuff guys takedowns. Make them tired and beat them up. So it worked out in my favor, and it was a fun experience fighting in Manchester.
Absolutely. One thing I've noticed with you, man, you just stay ready. You're one of those dudes, you're always training. You breathe, live, sleep, fighting. Do you kind of take that whole Diaz brother logic of if you stay ready, you don't need to get ready?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the way I look at this is it's my job. I'm obviously I had a job prior to this, and it's like I was working every day. So why not? If I quit that job to do this one, then I better keep working every day. So yeah, I mean, obviously you take days off to let the body heal and recover and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I'm always thinking, living, breathing, fighting. Everything is the diet and everything that I put in on a day-to-day basis is treating this like it's my job, and one day the paychecks are going to start coming in, and hopefully that's soon.
We've talked about before, but I mean, the sacrifices of being a professional mixed martial artist is real, man. It's a life like no other. Obviously, you've had to leave family behind, going to California, training over Alliance with the rest of the guys for weeks and months in at times. You miss birthdays, weddings, Thanksgivings, dinners, all this stuff just to chase this dream. Now you have the road. You have the road. You're going to go into it in August. You have your chance to get your ticket into the UFC. Hearing the news that you get on the Contender Series, seeing the success, does that really reinforce that these sacrifices are worth it?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I'm still making the sacrifices. I got two little ones now, and I'm on the road now in San Diego doing about a 6-7 week camp. And man, it's really tough leaving them. I'm gonna miss my son's second birthday this camp, and that one hurts me, man. But luckily he's a little enough to where he probably doesn't understand, and I think that one day when he does, realize, hey, he missed my second birthday, he'll probably agree with the decisions that I made. So, I always try to make the best decision based on family principles, and I think that making the sacrifices, coming to train here is the right decision. Not that I don't get good training back home, because I do, and I do want to shout out a few of my gyms back home. the Wolves Den over in St. Louis, and Gracie Humaida in Edwardsville, and then Maryville Muay Thai over in Maryville. I bounce around a lot to those gyms, and those guys graciously welcome me in. But to lock into a training camp and get the coaches that know my style and know how I train, I come out here to San Diego, where I've been for the last 5 or 6 years, and train with a lot of killers that know how to prepare me.
Absolutely. So I think something that was kind of interesting, your plans kind of changed a little bit. Originally, before you went out to San Diego, you were going to Mexico to train at the PI. Obviously, something happened. You want to talk about the situation a little bit over there?
Yeah, this was wild. So I had plans to go down to the UFC PI in Mexico City for a while. I had trained down there in January, helping Cruz prepare for his retirement fight, and I really enjoyed it. My old coach Eric Del Fiero's down there, so I had plans to go down there for a 7-week camp. It's a high altitude. You got the facilities, good training partners. I had my bags packed, my flights booked. I was ready to go. And I woke up to a message from Del Fiero probably a day or two before I was flying out, and he said we're gonna have to talk about a change of plans because the UFC PI caught on fire. So I was scrambling. I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do, but that's life. That's the fight game. You roll with the punches. Luckily, I got good connections, all over the states and especially out here in San Diego, and switched up my game plan. Talked to my coaches out here. Nick Piedmont. Nick Piedmont's cornered me for my entire professional career. He's an incredible coach. He's always got my back. He started laying out a game plan for a fight camp right away. Jeremy Stevens, he'll be in my corner as well and helping me through this fight camp. He laid out a game plan for me as well. So then it was just kind of up to me on, getting out here and finding a place to set up. And as you can see here, I'm set up in a nice little tent. And some people might think that's a little wild, but I am the Nomad, and this is what I do. I typically set up my camper, and I had some issues, some maintenance issues with the camper, and man, they're charging me out the wazoo on rent out here to bring my camper in. So I just went with a little switch around and threw the tent up. Dominic Cruz, the bantamweight goat, was gracious enough to let me pop this sucker on top of his rooftop. He's got the best view in the city, so I mean, I got it made. To be honest with you, it's a little too comfortable for me. I'll give you a little look around the tent. We got the cot right here where I'm sleeping, my gear bags, mini fridge. We got the food up top. I mean, it's really everything I need. And then I don't know if we can see the view, but there's a view of downtown, downtown San Diego. So best view in San Diego right here. So might as well plop up.
So you are literally right now on top of the roof, like 30, 40 feet in the air.
Yeah. It's a nice little like a patio deck up here. I mean, it's a nice setup, but yeah, Bass Pros. I ordered a tent from them, and I ordered a cot from Cabela's. They need to sponsor me. I would say is probably the next thing that needs to happen. So yeah.
For a while there, I didn't really understand fully what the nickname the Nomad meant, but I'm really starting to see it. You're a type of guy, you like to go from place to place. You like to cross train, you like to train at a bunch of different gyms. And when you Google what a nomad means, it's a person who does not stay long in the same place. For you, is that a depiction of who you are?
Yeah, it's funny because like I love my roots. My roots are in Southern Illinois. Born and raised in Benton, a small farm town, man. And honestly, when I was a kid, I thought I'd never leave, and I love that place. And I've lived kind of all over the country, and I always do resort back to Southern Illinois. And one of these days, I'll plant my roots there and stay long term. But for now, I'm on the road. I'm doing what I got to do, and I do love traveling. I love camping. I love staying in a camper, a tent, whatever I got on me. but yeah, and I hear some fighters talk about like the loyalty to a team thing, and I completely understand that. Like I'm a team guy. Don't get me wrong. That's I really am, even though this is an individualized sport. And that's why earlier I shouted out those gyms back home where I train, just because like there's so many people that allow me to come into their gym and and bounce knowledge back and forth off of each other, and let me get my rounds in with their guys. And um it's incredible the community that the MMA builds, and wrestling and jiu-jitsu, combat sports in general. So it allows me to be loyal to several teams. And that's the thing is, I even when I'm out here in San Diego, you know, our team alliance has kind of dissolved a little bit, but we still have bits and pieces, and we cross train with several different gyms. Steel MMA, training a lot there right now. And yeah, it's one of those things where like I think that my loyalty just resides in a lot of different places.
You've been part of this crazy journey of being a professional fighter for a very long time now. I mean, you've been fighting, competing for over a decade. When you first started getting into this, did you ever envision this?
Oh man, yeah, I envisioned something. I don't know if it was quite like this. I didn't know what to expect, getting into it. I think I was a little overconfident when I first came into MMA. I really thought I was, big shit popping. I thought I'd get to about 6-0 and get in the UFC and make a run and this and that. And then I took my L's, I took my lumps, and kind of learned the hard way. But I think that's the right way as well. I think obstacle is the way. So those obstacles were put forth in front of me for a reason, and it's made me into the fighter that I am. And so yeah, I don't think I quite envisioned it going the way that it has. But here we are, here we are with the biggest opportunity of my career right on the doorstep of it.
Before this opportunity, you've been fighting in one of the most respected regional promotions, in the world. I mean, Cage Warriors has generated so much great talent that become UFC champions, big household names in the UFC. Being able to fight on those shows, nice big arenas, have a lot of attention. Does that take kind of some of the pressure off for this one? Does that kind of create more of a normalcy situation here?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I owe a lot to Cage Warriors, and I was fortunate enough to get on their first card in the States. It was just, timing is everything. Timing is everything. I winded up here in 2020, and I was looking to get into some fights. And, we were looking at promotions in like Mexico and stuff. It was during COVID, nothing was going on. And then 2021 rolled around, and Cage Warriors got me on their first card, and right then and there I signed with them. And that was a blessing, man, getting with a good promotion that puts on a high level production value, not just the opponents that they give you, but broadcasted on UFC Fight Pass, and the production that they put on with just the lights, the cameras, the photo shoots, the interviews, the promos. It definitely benefited me in a lot of ways, and I'm comfortable doing that stuff now. So I think that going into this Contender Series, man, I'll feel right at home, to be honest with you.
Where were you when you got the phone call that you were being signed to the Contender?
Ah, man, I was at home. I had a baby in my arms, and yeah, my manager called me, and this is funny. He called me on a Monday, and he said usually I don't have good news on a Monday, and he was kind of talking to me about, what's your plans? You gonna stay in shape? You want to have a quick turnaround? And like I told him, I was like, I mean, yeah, I'll do a quick turnaround, but like I'd like to get on Contender Series, And he said, well, since it is St. Patty's Day and I'm Irish, I'm gonna tell you that you're on Contender Series. So yeah, he's an Irish fella, and yeah, he told me on St. Patty's Day, so it was very memorable.
Absolutely. So, we're kind of teasing it right now. Let's get right into it. August 26th, fight on the Dana White Contender Series, taking on Marcio Barbosa. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent here?
Man, I like the matchup. The more I look at it, I think it's a matchmaker's dream. Anybody that's tuning in is going to win this one. That's for sure. He's a guy that's ranked number one in Brazil. I think he's got a pretty big following and reputation over there. I think a lot of people have expected him to already be in the UFC. At one point, I believe he got a short notice call and accepted it. I think he accepted a short notice UFC fight on like 2 week notice, and something happened. It didn't end up following through. So now he's getting his opportunity, and unfortunately, he's going to have to stand across from me. But I think stylistically, he's a guy that brings forward pressure and has a lot of knockouts on his record. So very similar to what I bring to the table. So I think it's going to be a clash of knockout artists.
I definitely think the UFC matchmaking outdid themselves with this one here. I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but very similar when you look at both of you guys. He's done a lot of things in LFA. You've done a lot of things in Cage Warriors. The styles, there's not really much going backwards there. Both of you guys are very entertaining fighters, both well-rounded fighters. You add in the small cage in the apex to this one, I just see absolute fireworks. If someone doesn't get finished, could this be a 3-round dogfight?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm always down. I'm always down for a 15-minute. I mean, I would prefer to get him out of there early, and I think that's what's going to be on my mind, and my mentality is looking for a finish. But I'm durable and I got good cardio. I've proven that time and time again. I've had plenty of fights go the distance. He's a guy where he really hasn't had a lot of fights go the duration. Maybe one or two here or there. So, I think he's going to come out hot in the first round and try to get me out of there. And, if we go back to the stools after round one, I think he's going to be breathing heavy, and I'm going to get a good reset and come out guns blazing and try to get him out of there in 2 or 3. So, yeah, I mean, I accept all possibilities that can happen in a fist fight. That's just my mentality, and but I really do think that I can find his chin before he finds mine. I think that's going to be at the end of the day the difference maker.
One thing I love about the Contender Series, I just love the format of it. Because at the end of the day, this is your job interview to go in the UFC. It is very raw. There's no walkout music. You go right in, go right to business. Very limited people there. You could hear everything. You hear the strikes clearly. You hear the corner. Do you like that type of environment?
Yeah, it's funny because I really hadn't experienced that until my last fight. That fight in Manchester was on what they call Cage Warriors Unplugged. It's on a Friday before their big event that's on Saturday. So the Friday event on Unplugged, they don't have hardly any guests. I mean, there was maybe like 20 people cage side. So I got to experience that really for the first time. And to be honest with you, it was almost like quieter than practice would be. Because, practice, you got guys hitting the heavy bag, you got music playing, you got, people coaching you up and stuff. And it was interesting because, yeah, it was right off the bat, when the bell rang, all I could hear was our feet stomping on the canvas. I could hear his coaches speaking in Portuguese. I could hear my coaches, and that's about it. And so that's what I'm going to hear on August 26th. I'm going to hear their guys speaking Portuguese, and I'm going to hear my guys, and I'm going to hear us breathing and stomping on the cage. So, yeah, and you can definitely hear the shots land, which is interesting. Those knees that I landed on that last guy, I mean, you could hear his face get splattered by him. So it's definitely a different feeling. I don't know if I prefer one way or the other. For me, it's a fist fight. I'll fight you in a back alley if that's what it comes down to. So I would say I probably prefer a crowd just because it's more entertaining. But I don't think it'll affect anything to do with my fight. Yeah.
At this time, we're still weeks out from the contest, but are you envisioning in your head that moment of possibly sitting in the chairs with the rest of the winners, Dana White talking to you, saying, "Kid, get over here," shaking his hand and telling you you're going to the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, I've envisioned that moment for a long time now. It's almost like I'm kind of done envisioning it. Now I'm just focused on training, getting ready for the fist fight. I've thought about it so dang much that it's almost become reality. And They talk about law of attraction and visualizing and all this, and I'm starting to believe it. For a long time I wasn't really sure, but it's starting to unfold that way. It's starting to unfold the way that I envisioned it. So yeah, no doubt about it.
What would it mean for you to be able to get signed to the UFC?
Oh, I mean, lifetime achievement. This is something that I've dedicated my life to. Since I stepped on a wrestling mat at 5 years old. Getting beat up by my brothers on a daily basis, and yeah. So I mean, it means everything, and I don't know. It'll be surreal when the time comes. That's for sure.
In the past, Dana White, he's said on the Contender Series multiple times, he's not looking for 30-year-old contenders. I don't want to bring age up here, but obviously 32 years old. Do you feel at this point in your career, I mean, there's no playing around here. I mean, you get in and you just go to work.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in my prime. If I'm healthy, then I'm dangerous to beat. I stay in shape. My weight's always in control. I'm in my prime. So yeah, I think I can make a run. I don't have the mileage on me as far as damage that I've taken in the career. So yeah, I somewhat disagree a little bit with the way they look at age. I think it's more of a mileage factor. How many punches and kicks have you taken throughout your career, that kind of thing. But hey, only time will tell.
Do you feel like everything so far in your career, has it all led up to this moment? Is this when we really start the next chapter?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that. Like I said, the job's not done. I think we're just getting started. And hop on because it's going to be a wild ride. I got some really interesting fights and matchups ahead of me. That's for sure. It's just going to keep getting more dangerous and more dangerous out there, and I feed right into that. So yeah, this is definitely the start of something big.
So many people are watching this sport in this day and age. I mean, it's amazing. They're watching the UFC almost every single weekend now. The PFL, you have bare knuckle, you have you have karate combat. Very few really understand, obviously, what it's like to be a fighter. And I think it's also the sense they don't understand the life as a whole. They know that you're training for a fight, you're trying to win fights, trying to go to the UFC, trying to win belts, all that stuff. They don't see the fight outside the fight. So that fight, I think we've talked about before, but to not clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the fight to build a platform. It's the fight to not live by societal norms. Live a life on your own way, secure financial freedom, and live your American dream. You
Yeah.
feel like this is what you could yield you with a victory here?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. It'll be fine. It'll finally be nice to get a paycheck that I can support my family on. It's been a struggle the last several years. Luckily, I got a headstrong wife that runs her own business and kind of keeps us afloat and keeps paying the bills. And yeah, I think that I'll be a lot happier once I'm in the UFC. That's the way I've always looked at it. Who knows though? You're still not getting paid great. And it's hard to stay in the UFC. You go 0-2 barbecue and all of a sudden you're kicked out and then you're back to scratch. So yeah, I'm just focused on the present moment and just trying to get the job done each and every day.
Absolutely. One thing that's great about martial arts, I mean, it teaches so many values. I've had fighters tell me that they were on a rough path before they started competing, and it provided discipline for them, structure, guidance. It allowed them to become who they are today. You've been in martial arts for over a decade. How have you evolved from this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely made me a better person, maybe a better father. Yeah, just more patient, man. I mean, patience is always one of those things that keeps coming up. I think I was very impatient early on in my career. I was always wanting things done now. I was always wanting in the UFC now. I was always, just wanting to skip the journey. And I hear people talk about it all the time that it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. I get it, but it's hard to put that into play every day. And I think I've done a lot better job of doing that, taking it day by day and staying present and just being patient. And my time will come and it's finally here. And I'm just going to continue to be a patient man, with fighting and with my family, with my babies at home. Yeah, it's definitely evolved me as a human being, no doubt about it.
What do you want your kids to take from this journey?
Mm. Yeah. I guess that you can take risk in life and go for what you want to do, and you can come out on the other end a better man, a better person, regardless of the wins or losses or succeeding or failing. Yeah, just take risk and go for it. Otherwise, you'll look back wishing that you had.
So we got some huge fights coming up. I just want to get your predictions here on some of them before I let you loose. So we got an absolute banger here next weekend. We got Max Holloway. We got Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Who's getting their hand raised in that one?
Oh man, that's I wish they hadn't made this fight. You know, Poirier's already up 2-0 on him. It's his retirement fight. You would think that Holloway's going to win because the saying always was you can't beat a good team 3 times. You know, when we're in baseball, if you played a good team 3 times, you already had 2 wins. You weren't going to beat them a third. So, you know, if that's the play here, then Holloway's going to get the win, and unfortunately, Poirier is going to retire on a loss.
We got a big middleweight contest coming up. We got Renier de Ritter. He's fighting Robert the Reaper Whitaker. Who pulls that one out?
Man, I didn't even know that was matched up. That's an interesting one. I really have been impressed by de Ritter. He's a giant frame for the division. Big, strong, super high-level grappling. You know, Whitaker's a guy that is really difficult to take down. He's stuffed a lot of Yoel Romero's takedowns, stuffed, you know, most takedowns throughout his career. But he does leap in a lot, you know, his karate style where he leaps in, covers a lot of distance. You know, that crashing in is going to allow de Ritter to grab a hold of him. And I think de Ritter may be able to get this to the ground and you know, have top control and possibly get him out of there.
You know, a big championship matchup in that division is Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev. Who wins that one?
I think I got to go Dricus du Plessis. He's too good a cardio. I think that Chimaev, you know, long layoffs, you know, he's not very active, and people always, you know, people that train with him even mention about how he tends to slow down. You know, when you stop his first couple things, he'll tend to kind of slow down and wilt, and du Plessis does not ever slow down, so I see him retaining.
So the last one here, I want to end on a lightweight contest, and that's Gian Silva and Diego Lopez.
Dang. Yeah. You know, I just haven't seen like Silva. We haven't seen enough of him. I feel like, you know, they're throwing him a big match here, and he's got a lot of hype behind him. Obviously, he's got KO power. He's very explosive, fast. I just don't know what his grappling and wrestling looks like. I keep waiting for somebody to take him down and kind of test him there. And if anyone's going to do that, you know, Lopez has a high-level grappling game. I would think he's smart enough to clinch and wrestle a little bit. He tends to get in slugfest, and if he does that, you know, Silva's probably going to catch him. But I'll go Diego Lopez with the experience, and I think he's smart enough to grapple him.
You know, since obviously being told that you're going to be on the Contender, when you're watching big marquee matchups like this, you get fired up?
Yeah, I love fights. I like for the last, I don't even know how long, 15 years. Like, I just look forward to Saturday nights and watching fights, you know. That's what I do every Saturday night. You know, even when I was in college, like, people would, you know, say, "Hey, let's go to the party. It's time to go. We already pre-gamed." And I'd be like, "I got to catch the fights first." So I would wait until the fights are over, and then I would usually ride my bike to the party afterwards. So yeah, I'm always excited for them.
All right, Damon, last question for you, my friend. And you've done this a couple of times, so I think you know exactly what's coming here. In a perfect world, what is the outcome August 26th when you find the Dana White Contender Series against Marcio Barbosa?
Oh man, I would say I land a clean one across his chin and he face plants on the ground, and I put pen to paper and sign the dotted line to be a UFC fighter, right?
There you go. I think that's a perfect world prediction to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Damon, thank you so much for your time, man. Awesome to see you on the Contender Series. Really appreciate it every time we get to link up for an interview, and well deserved, my friend. Well deserved.
God bless you, Carlo. You're the man.
Absolutely. It's it for us tonight. I'm Carl Peruzza. He is the Nomad. He is Mr. Damon Wilson. Watch him. Dana White Contender Series, August 26th. He's taking on Marcio Barbosa. It's going to be a great fight, fans. Take care.
Let's go.